right. Now, I'm going to say this just for YouTube. YouTube, a certain word is going to be used, the R word. And no, not the R word for assault, but another R word for an insulting name, right? Between President Donald Trump and Governor Tim Walz, okay? So I'm not saying it, YouTube. It's the President of the United States, Tim Walz, and the media. I got to break this down because because you know what, folks? YouTube's probably going to suppress this video. So might as well just throw it out there, all right? Trump doubles down on calling Tim Walz the R word, especially challenged. He went full on there. So what's going on here? What exactly happened? Well, first of all, let's talk about it because there's a lot of spiciness about this story. It's extremely spicy. So let's go ahead and pull this up here for everybody to see. Donald Trump, take it away, Mr. President.
In that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive word, retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
You don't think
you have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something.
Dr. Nick, you know I love you, man. I'm gonna let this one slide, Dr. Nick. Listen, I'm gonna let that slide. I'm gonna let that slide for now, Dr. Nick, because I love you. You're my brother from another mother. There you go.
Something wrong with Walz.
There's something wrong with Walz. To which Walz, like an idiot, responded back.
Look, Donald Trump insulting me is a badge of honor for me, but I think we all know, as both as a educator for a couple decades and as a parent, using that term is just so damaging. It's.
I am shocked. Wendy, the most honorable of honorable, the most noble of noble, the White House counselor herself. I like to do a cold R word on my sourdough bread. Does that count? Kid, the White House counselor said something. Do you send her to the counselor's office? I don't know. Folks, this might be the end of everything for Hardlands Media. Full-on cancellation. Full-on cancellation, termination and everything. It's it. It's over. Wrap up shop. I might be going to jail for 15 years. White House counselor said something. How could it happen? How could it happen? How could it happen? But why is Trump going after him? Well, because first of all, there's the immigration crisis, and there's also the fact that, well, Donald Trump has a problem with Somalia. No, not Johnny Somali. That boy's in South Korea. He ain't ever going home. But there's a lot more to it because the Minnesota social service workers slammed Governor Tim Walz as 100% responsible for massive fraud of $1 billion rolling state. So there you go. Hundreds of state workers at the Minnesota Department of Human Services publicly went after Tim Walz for allowing a massive fraud scandal to unfold under his watch and retaliating against their whistleblowers. Oh, whistleblower. Over $1 billion in taxpayers' money was fleeced by dozens of scammers in Minnesota's Feeding Our Future fraud scandal, the largest known COVID-19 fraud case in the country. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response in Minnesota DHS Employees X account, which represents over 480 staffers, cited on Saturday. So, yeah, this is a very serious thing impacting Governor Tim Walz. All right, case in point, I'll read this right here. He is 100% responsible for a massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response. Continuing on. In addition to retaliating against whistleblower, Tim Walz disempowered the Office of the Legislative Auditor, allowing agencies to disregard their audit findings and guidance. Media and politicians supporting Tim Walz or the DFL agenda attacked whistleblowers who are trying to raise red flags on fraudulent activities. This is a cascade of systematic failures leading to up to Tim Walz. Agency leaders appointed by Tim Walz willfully disregard rules and laws to keep fraud posts quiet, even to the extent of threatening families of whistleblowers. These same leaders are not qualified for their jobs, instead getting leadership jobs via Tim Walz friendship, so state government were left floundering. DFL lawmakers refused to acknowledge fraud and deflected any serious conversation to stop fraud. Biased mainstream media such as the WCCO and NPR, showed absolutely no interest in covering fraud happening in our own state. Programs, especially in behavioral health and disability services, were built without any guidelines against fraud, all in an attempt to extract more funding from legislature and federal government. As staff, we firsthand witnessed and observed fraud happening, yet we were shut down, reassigned, and told to keep quiet. Keep quiet. Sometimes more leadership. Sometimes more. Leadership did not want to appear to discriminate against certain communities and were unwilling to take actions, such as stopping fraud that would have an adverse impact on their image. To date, no single agency leader has been held responsible for their role in fraud, whether it's Shireen Gandhi, Jess Gill, Jod Harpstead, Natasha Merce, Eric Gundam, or others. My goodness gracious. All right. I just want to point out here again, that's over $1 billion. That's one. All right. So just want to point out something else here too in the notes here. During the last 5 years, fraudsters targeted Minnesota's generous social safety net by setting up companies that billed the state for social services prosecutors alleged were never actually provided. So it was just one big old milking cow, and Tim Walz just sat on his rear end. Feeding Our Future, a nonprofit founded in 2016 that purported to help feed school children. This gets me angry here. Because when it comes down to feeding kids, man, I just, oof. And just a scam. There's a special place in hell for people like that. Had partners with a dozen local businesses under pretense of providing food aid. The nonprofit, which dissolved in 2022, and its partners billed the state, claiming to have helped feed tens of thousands of needy children. In reality, most of that money was squandered on foreign real estate projects, luxury cars, and more. Other organizations besides Feeding Our Future committed fraud with Minnesota's social safety net as well, including a fraud largely revolved around dozens of people in the Somali area. Minnesota is home to about 80,000 Somali Americans, so you could expect Trump to kind of go after Tim Walz here on this one. Continuing on, again, there's more on this post here. I mean, it's a long dissertation right here, because this is even seen in the New York Times. It's a bad day to beat Tim Walz. It's a bad day to beat him. In its structure, created and maintained by Governor Tim Walz, who created an environment of interrelated agencies and institutions, including the media, that help foster fraud through retaliation and turning a blind eye in exchange for political gain in the form of higher power agency leadership jobs or other perks. You know, Trump calling it a full R word right now, kind of apropos, especially this happened under your watch. Fundamentally, Tim Walz is a dishonest, lacks ethics and integrity, has poor leadership abilities, and has never taken accountability for his role in fraud. Instead, Tim Walz deflects by blaming national politics for his own failings and distracts the public with intermittent lying. These lies include his reverence of budget surplus under his tenure. Fact is, Minnesota never had a surplus. We had been given federal ARPA funds that were conflated as surplus money. Otherwise, we'd be in a deficit. And those ARPA funds, which were meant to be temporary funds, were used to create more leadership positions for Tim Walz's buddies. Don't worry. Republican lawmakers do the same thing too, by the way. As much, we can't fight fraud in Minnesota alone, hence why we're appealing to federal levels of government. We need all help we can to get Tim Walz agency leaders have upped their brazen approach in covering up their knowledge of fraud. We're grateful to numerous solid politicians and media outlets who are trying to halt fraud. We are also grateful to other whistleblowers who are bravely stepping up. Thank you, New York Times, for bringing the plight of Minnesota to the national stage. And this is from the Minnesota Department of Human Services employees. Sucks to be Timmy, boy. And let's just face it, Timmy from South Park has probably more of a clearer head than good old Tim Walz himself. I mean, after all, even he could not save Kamala Harris's campaign, and that's not saying much. But there's a little bit more with Tim Walz. There's a little bit more scandals surrounding him. And I know everyone's saying, well, gee, kid, what about Trump? I mean, I know. Listen, scandals surround all these politicians. All these politicians are nuts. Okay? All these politicians are lazy. All these politicians are frauds. All these politicians are idiots. But when it comes down to accountability, remember, they're never going to do that. And with all these scams and with all these scandals surrounding what's happening in Minnesota, next year, do I see it becoming a battleground state? Absolutely. It will be. But you never go full. All right. To quote Tropic Thunder, you never go full. Case in point, I want to pull up something else here too. One more thing.
Midwestern dad, like super clean cut vibe.
Everybody likes
right?
Walz.
So plain spoken and
Remember when everyone loved him?
relatable, as moderate and independent as it comes. Pretty moderate Democrat.
I always knew him as a moderate. One of the most moderate.
Very moderate record.
The new moderate.
I think this is the new moderate.
Far from progressive.
He's right down the middle.
He's not just an old white man.
Tim Walz speaks American, you know.
Talks like a regular person.
Tim Walz is the opposite of weird.
Walz is basically younger Joe Biden. Regular old.
And they did all that. That shield wall. So what better way to end this than on a high note? And I will actually read this because I had a friend private message me this. Because Wendy Carballo, I can't believe it. She likes to do the cold retard. Cold retarding bread dough is a technique that slows down yeast activity by placing the dough in a refrigerator, all right, to control fermentation and develop flavor. This allows bakers to prepare dough in advance, extending the fermentation period for a more complex taste without overproofing. This process can be used during bulk fermentation or for the final proofing stage before baking. Isn't that incredible? So you know something? Hey, we're gonna learn how. We're gonna go full. We're gonna go full. We're gonna do it. Show us, my friend.
Enough. Besides just temperatures and ingredients, there are some practical things to consider, like the shape of the bread, how sticky the dough is, the final proofing vessel. If you have a small fridge, perhaps you should make 2 smaller loaves instead of 1 large one. If the loaf is final proofed in a basket or on a couche, perhaps it may need an extra dusting of flour to prevent the dough from sticking. If you have sticky bread rolls, perhaps place them in a deep dish so you can cover them with the cling film so it's not touching the surface. Or use some kind of glaze, or brush the loaf with some oil. Glazes will prevent the dough from sticking to the cling film. Recently, I published a recipe for a 100% hydration, 100% whole wheat bread. It was cold fermented on a flat tray because it was quite large. And it was of course extremely sticky. If I had only used cling film, then it would have stuck to it. There is no way of brushing such a loaf with oil. It was just too fragile. So what I ended up doing is covering that tray with another tray. And that works perfectly.
It's tray.
But of course, then you need a tray that fits over another tray. Okay, let's get back to our breads for a second. As I mentioned in the beginning, they all contain 1% yeast. Final dough temperature was 25 degrees Celsius or 77 Fahrenheit. Bulk fermentation time was 1 hour and 20 minutes. The loaf went in a loaf tin, and it was glazed with an egg white. The pita dough balls on a flat tray with the dusting of flour so they don't stick. And the cheesy rolls were glazed and topped with cheese. They are of course in the high-sided tray on the right. And now they are going in the fridge for 14 hours of cold proofing. It is the next day.
Or also known cold retarding. I should not be canceled for that, YouTube, because that's just a scientific term. Now, what does that relate to Donald Trump and Tim Walz? Nothing. I just thought I had a humorous note on it because, you know, besides Brandon Johnson and his political career blowing up, it looks like Tim Walz's political career is blowing up too. And everyone's saying that the Democrats are going to come riding in strong in 2026. The answer is no. So I'll end this on a final note. What has a better chance? What has a better chance of standing strong in 2026? This bread in the refrigerator or the Democrats' ambition of surviving 2026? Type 1 for the bread, type 2 for the Democrats. The answer is the bread. The answer is the bread. The answer is the bread. Put some bread on it.